Oh, yeah. Ran for the space, and I went up to the production office, and I speak fairly fluent Italian, but I didn't. So I said ventilatrice or something, and they're friends of mine in the production office for many years. I've known them. And they come back down to deliver the fan. I was asking for an oscillating fan. So I was like, the fan. He comes down with this, and I'm like, smart enough. Como se dice, smart
Really
enough.
play the piano with one of those.
So he goes, and they really did have other truck guys.
What word was used? Oh, what was the,
Well, the word I used was for that kind of thing. You know when you're looking up in your little dictionary how to say fan? So I looked at the first one, and the other one was for an electric fan, which is ventice. It's like a sort of shorter, probably. All right, whatever.
well, I took Latin and Spanish and French, so
Aha.
I can kind of read it.
Yeah.
But it has to be in my specialty. So, if it's not, it's not. It won't have something to learn it. But I was there. Nor can I do anything with normal basic.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
boy.
For me, I can speak Italian, you know, I'd say 90% at this point, but as I was learning it, you know, and I would make up words. So my Italian friends call it Italiano. And usually when I forget a word, Desi? Yeah. May I have what's the little? Good to see you. Thank you so much. Yeah, but usually when I make a mistake in Italian, it's some sort of vulgar word. It's never like napkin or
Oh, that's
something.
like my.
That's how I made all my friends there.
My boss who taught me. He was Jewish, so you know what he taught me at work.
Oh! Watch out.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I hardly ever use them except around him.
Oh, yeah, the words I've said. They still let me back in the country.
So did you live in Italy for a while?
Not that, just in the summer was, you know, in undergraduate school, I was in Westminster Choir residence for the festival. We were the opera chorus. And did our own concerts. This is my first, and that was 9 weeks of summer for 4 summers. Then I came back as a professional a few times, choir manager, blah, blah, but did little roles. And then my best friend and I, who were in the same situation and were enamored with the Stilltown, designed a choral cultural program.
You are a winner, aren't you?
Was a oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I have the Inferno in 2 languages. You know, where they have the
That's the one.
I have to look something up because it's on.
You might not have been too handsome.
Not too handsome.
Testing, testing.
I'm sorry.
one staff, take them all. Lunch for evidence.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Good.
Just realized the number for him is not anything. So I just had to look it up.
No, you're good, you're good. And I'll put them with the ones that we're gonna set.
But Shay probably will. Shay will use the test one.
As always, do we want to shift?
Oh, I see what you're doing. All right, I
Cheating, you're gonna.
just got what you were doing. I will leave the mic on the stand. Stand up and leave. So that will happen beforehand, so I will need that. Please, please, thank you. Wait, thank you. All right. All right.
Is that right, is that good or a little?
Yeah, that's perfect. No, that's Annie's. She's all preset. She's preset, so that's what that's. Is that in your way? There might even be other stands that I'm not aware of. Just don't. I was just protecting your stand.
Then I should be so.
We singers, I was like, don't touch that. Once a diva, always diva. Yeah, the way I just played it, it just. Yes, you gotta sing for the it's Malvina Reynolds. It is from the Southern Harmony. You know, so it's got a little that Anglican stuff going on there. Little, yeah, that's my heritage. I'm feeling it.
Although my father counted the Irish, but it was just. He preferred the Irish.
Yes. It is the wireless. Yeah, because I'm just using at the beginning. No problem. No problem. No problem. Look how it's protecting that.
Oh.
Get out my little puppy footage.
Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to our multi-platform worship service. I am Shay Dively, this congregation's intern minister, and I use she, her pronouns. Today, it is my honor to be co-leading our service together with Reverend John Olson, worship associate Steve Workman, music director Holly Ferris, and we are giving a big thank you to Holly for the music that she is gifting us today, and Annie, who is going to be gifting us a song. We're so very grateful for that. And as always, we thank Mike Foy for running our AV tech. This is a UU congregation, which means we are people of different faith traditions, different racial identities, and different ways of moving in the world. We meet in a universalist sanctuary, which means that in all of our beautiful diversity, we try to make love with a capital L come alive. We don't enforce beliefs. We welcome different songs of truth. We don't condemn people. We make room for transformation of the heart and mind. We don't wait on justice. We help create it. At UU Mount Airy, we are building a beloved community by embracing all souls and nurturing wholeness. And we are made more whole by your being with us this morning. For your presence here, we are truly grateful. Our service today focuses on the courage and concept of resilience. May our gratitude and intentions be guiding lights for us this morning. Let us worship together. In UU congregations, we light a chalice to celebrate our coming together in love, to mark the sacred space and time of our community, and invite spirit into our lives. We invite you to light a candle wherever you are today so that we may become connected through time and space. Holly is going to lead us in a chant, Da Pacem Cordium, give peace to every heart, as today's chalice lighting meditation, and we will chant these words as Steve lights our chalice.
Good morning, everybody. This is in Latin, Da Pacem Cordium. So say, Da Pacem Cordium. So, we'll see it up there. Give peace to every heart. Always a great way to start a service, no matter what the theme is. So it's in 3 parts, but it is a canon. So I'm going to teach all 3 parts, one long song. You'll pick it up and just make it up. I'll pick up new notes each repetition. We'll repeat it till the spirit, I'll sort of do this, and you'll get softer and you'll come together and I'll hold the last note. So those who are the choir, who are out, you can be the stronger voices, helping neighbors who might feel a little less acquainted with Latin. Here it is, listen first. Da pacem cordium, da pacem cordium, da pacem, da pacem. Try that all together now. That was, see how long that was? 3 sections. Goes to the middle section, higher section, okay? Same words though. Here we go, try it out, and Da pacem cordium, da pacem cordium, da pacem, da pacem, da pacem cordium. Da pacem cordium, da pacem. standing is easier for those who are able. Here we go. Standing or sitting with spirit of standing. Here we go. This side will start us off row your boat. Oh, da pacem for you. And da pacem for you. Da pacem for you. Keep going. Da pacem for you. Da pacem for you. Da You're doing great. Keep going. All right. Good sports.
As we know, peace does take every heart. Our opening hymn is entitled We're Stronger as One. It's truly a gift to us. Holly has written this piece specifically for today's service, and it's intended to be sung as a round, as we just did. It's a day of rounds. So she's going to introduce us to this song that she wrote. Thank you, Holly.
Okay, let me adjust for a second. Okay. There's a lot of music in my head. Is this on?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So the words are, no matter what our trials here, we know we're not alone. Then that repeats, no matter what our trials here, we know we're not alone. The second part, this is another round because I love doing chants and rounds. Open our hearts and reach out our hands because we know we're stronger as one. Oh, I was repeating it stupid. Yeah. So yeah, I just wrote it. So, and I've been singing it in the car, you know. So listen first. As I was saying this, don't start singing yet till I go and look like that. Okay. No matter what our trials here, we know we're not alone. No matter what our trials here, we know we're not alone. Open our hearts and reach out our hands because we know we're stronger as one. That's the whole thing. And we'll do the same thing. We'll sing it through twice. You'll pick it up. Make it up. You'll figure it out. And then we'll do row, row, row your boat. Our part.
Holly. As a community dedicated to growing into and embodying the tenets, principles, and beliefs of beloved community, we experience how when we share the authentic and vulnerable parts of ourselves with others, to be seen and to be known, and when we witness to the vulnerabilities and tendernesses of others, to see and to know, this exchange of sharing and witnessing helps deepen our interdependence with one another, calling us to be more loving, more reverent, more empathetic, and more compassionate, building a community of love and justice, a beloved community. We share in different ways during this ritual of sharing joys and concerns or sorrows. Sometimes we infuse or charge stones with our joys and sorrows and place them in a bowl of water so their energy may ripple out to be held by all of us, while still being surrounded by the water that symbolizes our community's shared grief and joy. Other times we light candles so that we may see the light that fills this sanctuary, the light that emanates from our beings, from our souls. On other Sundays, we lift up our joys and sorrows during a reflective or prayerful meditation. However the ritual unfolds, whether verbal sharing is done or it's done in silence, with stones or with candles, each of us is always encouraged, invited to bring our whole being to the experience, to be present with what is held within our bodies and our hearts. So this morning, we invite all who have gathered virtually and physically in the now and in the future to take a moment to connect with the joy, concern, or sorrow that rests within their heart. Explore the way that works for you. It might be breathing deeply, placing your hand upon your heart, or closing your eyes. Explore your new, unique way of connecting to self. For those gathered in the sanctuary, we invite you to breathe this experience into the flower you chose when you walked into the sanctuary. If you didn't have a chance to do so, there are some right here, so it's okay. These flowers, these beautiful flowers, in keeping with today's theme, remind us of both the beauty and the fragility of life. As you feel moved and called, we ask that you come up one at a time by the side aisle and place your flower on our sacred holy table, where it will be visible to all of us. Or, if you would like us to bring your flower to the table for you, please raise your hand so that we can collect your flower. For those gathering virtually, we ask that you infuse your joys and concerns and sorrows into the flowers that you see in the vase on the table. Send your energy to them through space and time. Steve, John, and I will then place your flowers among those already resting on the sacred and holy table. Although we are not verbally sharing our joys and concerns today, know that we have all witnessed each other coming to the table. We will then sit in stillness and hold all these joys and concerns and sorrows together. The sacred space of deep sharing is open. Friends, will you join me in this prayer, however you define prayer? Spirit of life, divine, known by many names and no name, in this sacred hour, we lift up the moments that burden our hearts so that the love of this community may be like a balm to our being, easing our worry, if only for a moment. We lift up the joys that touch our souls so that they may bring a moment of joy to others, so that we may add to the collective joy of this community. In this holy hour, we experience how life holds all that is, all that was, and all that has yet to be. How the love of this beloved community holds us, nurtures us, celebrates and sustains us now and beyond. Blessed be and amen.
I'm going to introduce today's theme of resilience with the story of Travis Roy. He was an elite hockey star who was one of the most heavily recruited college athletes in the U.S. in 1995. 11 seconds into the first game of his college career, he fell and was permanently paralyzed. And his story will be shown now.
Travis' story is an inspiration to all of us. 20 years ago today, his life completely changed. What followed were new challenges, but also a new outlook on life.
I wasn't real comfortable with a lot of the attention that I received after my injury. I basically broke my neck playing hockey, and but now there's more of a story there. We've gone from terrible tragedy and watching the outpouring of support towards me, and now it is 20 years later that we've transitioned that support directed at me towards helping to provide a better quality of life for other people that are paralyzed.
Mayor Walsh has announced today that today is Travis Roy Day. In the city of Boston, so.
Travis was struggling to find out what he was going to replace hockey with in his life. And he replaced it with going out and helping other people. And I think that is something that he's so excited about, that he can do this for people. And it's really given him a new passion in life, that's for sure.
I want to tell you a couple quick stories that made a difference in the outcome of my life. I make my living with my speaking career. Talk to a lot of different audiences and meet a lot of different people, and my favorite really is high school students. I enjoy that audience. I still feel like I connect and relate, and I talk about some of the values that were important to me in high school and some of the decisions I made, and I think kids they pick up on it. I think I deliver it in a way that makes sense. It's the values that make us who we are and why we're different from the next person. And eventually I realized that there was no difference between the star athlete, hockey player Travis and the Travis you see right here before you today. And I've been doing this for a while now, and there's still a little bit of a high. I mean, there's still a little bit of, I connected, that the kids felt it. And they come up to me afterwards, and, there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of appreciation. Thanks, goodness. Feels good. It's not quite like scoring a goal, but there's a little piece to it that's, it's like, yeah, I won that game, and that it does. It feels good. I have no words to explain what your support has meant to my family and to me. The money raised tonight will significantly impact our ability to fund research and help others with spinal cord injuries. I will do whatever it is in my power to make dreams for increased mobility and greater independence come true. And for you to be here tonight, I thank you. And I love you for it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Whenever that quote-unquote cure does come, I know that that will have some fingerprints on it, and that's pretty neat to be able to say. And it's made my life, it's given my life a lot of value and its meaning, and I'm proud of it, and it's a really good thing.
The point of Travis Roy's story is not the fact that he was injured. It's the fact that he chose to view his injury as an opportunity to infuse his life with a purpose that defined him from that point forward. I was inspired to work with John, Shay, and Holly on today's service based on stories like Travis's and other insights on resilience that I've gotten from 2 books that I read this summer. One is American Ramble, A Walk of Memory and Renewal by Neil King Jr., and the other is called The Book of Charlie, Wisdom from the Remarkable Life of a 109-Year-Old Man by David Vondrell. American Ramble is the narrative of Wall Street Journal columnist Neil King Jr., who had vowed to walk from his home in Washington, D.C. all the way to New York City. He had intended to undertake the journey in the spring of 2020, but pandemic-related restrictions postponed his plans until March of 2021. By that time, he had received a life-altering cancer prognosis that completely reframed his walk, his insights, and the lessons he learned along the way. The book would not have been as compelling without that diagnosis. In fact, his reaction to it is something I heard about in an interview, and that's what inspired me to buy the book. The little pink notes that you see here are all of these points of inspiration that I got from that book. I have just as many from the second book, but that's in the electronic format, so I've got yellow highlight there. But here's how Neil King described his feelings upon leaving the doctor's office following that diagnosis. He said, "Simple things, the sight of children playing in a park, wind blowing through trees, assumed an otherworldly radiance. Familiar foods took on new flavor and exploded in my mouth. The scrambling of the calendar, the whiting out of all of the presumed years beyond the one at hand, gave me an urgent clarity and rendered me freer than at any other point in my life. I felt weightless, like a dry sponge, ready to absorb." The Life of Charlie, also written by a journalist, tells the story of a new neighbor who profoundly affected him. His name was, the author is David Vondrell. And the book opens with a description of their introduction on a stifling August morning. "Halfway down the driveway, I looked up and saw something that stopped me in my tracks. My new neighbor was washing his girlfriend's car in his driveway across the street. My neighbor was bare-chested, dressed only in a pair of old swim trunks. With a garden hose in one hand and a soapy sponge in the other, he flexed his muscular chest with each splash and swirl while his wavy hair flopped rakishly over one eye. That was Charlie White, age 102. One does not expect, upon meeting a man of 102, to be starting a long and rich friendship. The book's narratives are quite dissimilar. The story in American Ramble begins and ends within the span of roughly 30 days. Its insights are an introspective and highly personal reflection of its author, who is coming to terms with his impending mortality while savoring life at approximately 3 miles an hour, despite the frenetic pace and distractions of the 21st century. The Book of Charlie, on the other hand, spans the 109 years of Charlie's life. Unlike American Ramble, it's not the author's inward reflection. Its focus is Charlie and his long and remarkable resilience in adapting to significant personal tragedies and setbacks, and his ability to adapt and thrive in the face of mind-bending social, scientific, and technological transformations that occurred from his early childhood during the Teddy Roosevelt administration to his death in 2014. I'm now handing the service over to John Olson, but in doing so, I am not going to give up my microphone. For those who do not yet know John, he's been attending here at UU's of Mount Airy frequently since he discovered us earlier this year. It's quite a commitment on his part, as he comes here after attending to his Sunday obligations at a nearby Baptist congregation. Today, he'll be describing the concept of resilience through the lens of his full-time position as chaplain for Abington Memorial Hospital. Please extend a warm welcome to John.
Thank you, Steve. Real quick, how many here today have experienced a stressful event this year? Just a quick show of hands. Okay, almost everybody. All right, anybody didn't put their hands up? How about this month? Okay. How about today? Okay, a few today. All right. Anybody didn't put your hands up? Okay. So stress is a ubiquitous part of our lives. You know, there is this sense of good stress versus bad stress. Eustress, which is good stress, versus distress. And somehow in the midst of that, we have this optimal zone in which we can thrive and succeed with resilience. And that's what I want to share with you a little bit about this morning. The definition of resilience is the capacity to withstand or recover quickly from difficulties, to have a toughness, if you will. It literally means to recoil, to bounce back, to be resilient or recover in the wake of a stressful event or adverse circumstances of life. There are some remarkable stories of resilience, and one of them involves music and the arts, and it's a documentary film from 2014 called Alive Inside, a story of music and memory. And through this fascinating lens, we see the story of healing through the art of music. The film follows a music therapist through their daily journey, and a project where they went to the most profoundly demented and sullen members of some of these communities and really tried to impact them with the art of music. And time and again, they would take the headphones and take a song that was meaningful to them. And you just see this, someone who just seems lifeless and just kind of surviving, to someone who just lights up and their face glows and they come alive. And then all of a sudden they start sharing. There was one woman named Mary who heard When the Saints Go Marching In, performed by Louis Armstrong. And her face just shone, and she said, you know, that reminds me when I was sitting on my mama's porch back when I was a kid, playing patty cake with my friends, and, you know, we would sneak off and play in the neighborhood. Then there was another man named Henry who had been a dancer and an entertainer, and for the last 10 years he'd been in this nursing home, and just his daughter was so bereft and sad because he just wasn't responding. He didn't want to go to the activities. He didn't want to engage with others. He couldn't remember even his daughter's name sometimes. And they put the headphones on and reminded him of a song, a gospel song from his childhood. And you see his eyes open up and he begins to sing along. The power of resilience and healing that we can experience in life. When I was in seminary, I did a similar project. My undergrad was in music education, vocal choral, and I had an interest in exploring that. So when I was in seminary, I would go and I would visit the sick in the nursing homes, in the hospital, and do something similar. I would ask them a song that was meaningful to them, or kind of take a guess from their upbringing. And time and again, they just light up, and then they begin to share about their life and their journey. And that is part of the healing power of resiliency. And I've certainly found that to be the case also in my work as a hospital chaplain. For the past 5 years, I've been the manager and director of a staff support program for distressed healthcare workers called Resilience in Stressful Events, or RISE, the acronym. And we had the vision before the pandemic, and noticed right away how people just need that presence. They need a comforting, healing presence to create that safe space for them to know that they're going to be okay. To be able to find those inner resources, those healing resources within all of us that sometimes we forget about when we've been through a stressful or traumatic event. Henri Nouwen, the great mystic and devotional theologian, shared a quote that I really resonate with in my chaplaincy journey. And he wrote, "When we honestly ask ourselves which person in our lives means the most to us, we often find that those, instead of giving advice or solutions or cures, have chosen rather to share our pain and touch our wounds with a warm and tender hand." In chaplaincy, this is what we call the ministry of presence. Someone that you can just be present with. You're not asking them for anything. You're not trying to convince them of anything. You're not telling them, "Oh, it's going to be okay. It'll be okay. You'll feel better soon." Brene Brown talks about this in a great little video, by the way, on empathy. If you haven't seen it, Resilience and Empathy, check it out.
Neil King, in his ramble from Washington, D.C. to New York City, had an insight that was very similar to Henri Nouwen's. We are here to do good and to do no harm and to provide light and warmth to others like the sun, and not just leech it like a moon. But beyond all that, we are here to bear witness in the most fundamental way, to marvel and behold, to take it in, to be present in a way that tilts toward rapture. We are great to the extent that we contain the world's goodness.
Wise words. So as we continue this journey and go a little bit deeper, when we've experienced those stressful events in life, they stay with us and have an impact, sometimes beyond what we are even consciously aware of. If you think of, just pause for a moment and think of where you experience certain emotions in your body, for instance. Like for me, I feel joy up here in my face. If I'm feeling tense or a little upset, I kind of get this tightness in my chest a little bit. If I've been given some bad news, or I just found out that I've lost somebody that's dear to me, it feels like a punch in the gut, We carry it in our bodies, but oftentimes we don't know why it's there. And then it comes out at different times. Something will remind us of it, and you get that feeling, and you're not quite sure what it's about. That is in part because we have had those experiences encoded and embedded within our very beings. There's a great book, by the way, it's kind of got a catchy title too. It's called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And you think of it, it's by a stress psychologist, PhD stress psychologist, Robert Sapolsky is his name. It's really elegantly simple, and it's brilliant at the same time, that kind of, if you think of it, in the history, of course, of evolution, right? We had this fight or flight response. Humans had to be able to summon this superhuman strength to either, kill the woolly mammoth or run to get out of there so you're not lunch, right? And so as we moved into the agrarian era and settled, we no longer had to be able to get out of there as quickly, as often. But we still have those responses because as humans, we are meaning-making creatures. And so if the thought begins, then it starts the immune response and it flows through our bodies, and then we get that stress, that distress, because we just shove it down what I call the emotional trash compactor. You know that? I can't talk with this person about that, or I'm angry at my boss, but I'm not going to say anything because I want to keep my job, or whatever it may be, a loved one, a friend, and we just put some down and push it down, and then it comes out in ways that cause us suffering and cause others around us to suffer. The Body Keeps the Score. There's another great book I'll share with you real briefly. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, he's a wonderful, it's a best-selling book on this, and this is what he says about that and about finding that resiliency in the midst of stress. He writes, "We can help survivors feel fully alive in the present and move on with their lives by talking, by reconnecting, and allowing ourselves to know and understand what is going on with us while processing the memories of the trauma." So in that window, after we've experienced a difficult or powerful event, to be able to talk with another caring human being who has no agenda other than being there for you and helping them cope. That is what resilience is about. And that is the core principle behind the RISE program that has now helped nearly 1,000 healthcare workers in the Delaware Valley.
Neil King, in his walk from Washington to New York, pondering his own mortality, says, "I had set out with a wonder first stirred by a sickness. A jolt of fear had opened a seam of freedom, and I slipped through. I went out to seek and give meaning, with the giving being part of that conversation. When you look at the landscape as a place imbued, inch by inch, with meaning, with stories to tell and mysteries you will never quite understand, it repays that attention with gratitude. It rewards the respect you give it, just as people do."
And so as we peel another layer of the onion, if you will, with stress and resilience and that relationship, I want to look a little bit at the spiritual side here. We are at a gathering, an inclusive gathering here in this wonderful congregation. And one of the core principles of Unitarian Universalism is affirming and promoting the inherent dignity and worth of every person. In the Judeo-Christian tradition, that's also sometimes called the Imago Dei, that we are all humans are created in the image of the divine. So, in the Christian tradition, there's a passage where Jesus says, "As you've done to the least of these, so you've done to me." And so, whomever you see, the least and the lost, those who are suffering, that is a sacred and divine presence in our midst, worthy of our care, our love, and compassion. I'll share with you very briefly the story of a young man that I encountered when I was pastor for 5 years at a church in Manayunk on the hill there. And he had some some struggles and difficulties. He was on the autism spectrum. He had a profound case of schizophrenia, and he lived with his parents. And he was, I think, about 40-ish at the time, and sometimes he would come in and he'd have, scrapes and cuts, and he'd be in a dirty t-shirt, and his name is Frankie. But he has the sweetest, kindest spirit, and real, true child of God. Well, one Sunday morning, after the call to worship, he had this basketball, and he comes in, bouncing it right up the center aisle. And then he sits right here. And the church ladies are saying, what's he doing? And then, he really settled in, and he was really attending to the message, and he was engaged and involved. And then when, in the Baptist tradition, we used to have a receiving line after, the pastor would shake hands and kind of greet people and wish them a good week and everything. And Frankie comes through with his basketball, and he comes up to me and he says, Pastor John, would you bless my basketball? And that was one of the most sacred moments of my ministry and my life. And I said, of course I'll bless your basketball, Frankie. You are precious in God's sight, and I love you, and so does God. And he said, can I have a hug, Pastor John? And we shared a hug there. And so that was a sacred moment. And, people said, oh, don't let him sit there. What's he doing coming in here? And so when we encounter people who maybe don't fit all the social mores and rules or are different, that it makes us uncomfortable sometimes, right? But if we can be patient and calm and hold space for them, help them to find resilience, we can share that spiritual wisdom that God has for us. There is a quote from Thomas Merton, who is a Trappist monk, and he was a Trappist monk and theologian. He's now deceased, but he describes how humans relate to the divine in the midst of adversity. And it also ties in with this, the Celtic concept of the thin spaces. I don't know if anybody has heard thin spaces, where the divine is close to us. We're in the midst of suffering, you're in the midst of a storm, something is happening that you don't understand, that's beyond your control, and then the divine speaks to you through those thin spaces. And he writes, talking about this dynamic tension between the sufferer and the divine. No despair of ours can alter the reality of things or stain the joy of the cosmic dance, which is always there. Indeed, we are in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of us. For it beats in our very blood, whether we want it to or not. Yet the fact remains that we're invited to forget ourselves on purpose, cast our awful solemnity to the wind, and join in the general dance, the ebb and flow of life. Anybody here ever done any dancing? We have a few?
No.
I confess I did. I took some swing dancing classes recently, but you're just getting outside of yourself and you're allowing yourself to inhabit that, and that is such a powerful form of resiliency.
The Book of Charlie author says, Charlie, I think, had a natural perception that every life meets obstacles and setbacks, some more difficult than others, and some more unjust. But there is always some scope of self-determination, no matter how narrow. In that space, we are on our own.
So as we dig a little deeper, another layer of the onion, having that spiritual resilience for ourselves, well, if we have it for ourselves, that's great, but how about sharing it as part of a community? You know, there's this notion of that we are blessed to be a blessing. And I think sometimes we miss, oh, well, who am I to offer a blessing? You know, I'm not a minister, or I'm not a pastor, or I have no authority. But every human being can be a blessing and offer blessings to others. So my invitation to you is to think of the people. Let's pause for a moment and maybe either close your eyes or just be present here and just take a deep breath with me. Think of someone in your life that you may be able to be a blessing to today. And that's one of the things that's at the heart of the resilience that we seek. And it's a holistic resilience of mind, body, and spirit. Because with our minds, the messages that we tell ourselves can either nourish and help us to grow, or they can stifle us and the people around us and be like a toxin, a poison. We can either have self-affirmations, or we can have self-limiting beliefs. And it's all within us. With our bodies, we can prioritize healthy living, eating well, self-care. That helps us to feel better. In the Christian tradition, we say the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. You know, that the divine lives and flows through each of us. So I enjoy taking walks outside in nature. And one of the places that I like to go is either to the Wissahickon, you know, down there along Valley Green, or sometimes to Pennypack Creek. And you're just there and you kind of hear the water, the babbling brook, the rustling of the trees, the birds chirping, maybe a little dragonfly or a lightning bug kind of wafting by there. And you can be still with nature. And the great outdoorsman and founder of the Sierra Club, John Muir, has a quote that ties in perfectly with this, which I just love. And he said, "Everybody needs beauty as well as bread, places to play in, places to pray in, where nature may heal and give strength to body and soul alike." And my invitation for you is that you would seek out those places. Make that a regular part of your journey so that you can experience that living water on a regular basis for yourself and for others.
Neil King wrote on his walk, "Loss has a strange way of bringing us things in return. My cancer gave me gifts I never expected. I became, for one, deeply attuned to trees. On every trip to the hospital, I would stand in silence before a stately elm in Georgetown and marvel at its grace in all seasons. I watched it go from a crepuscular tangle of arteries and veins in winter to a spring halo of luminescent green. I watched it leaf, strut its full summer green, go golden, shed its leaves, and stand bare again. Its symmetry and strength and quiet flamboyance spoke to me."
Thank you, Stephen. And as we close today and move to the next chapter of our days, I share with you a quote that's been deeply meaningful to me from a Quaker writer, Thomas R. Kelly. He lived in the early 20th century, and he wrote this wonderful, moving little book. And my father gave a copy of this to me when I was accepted to seminary. And the concluding words of this wonderful little book, he talks about the center and living in the light. Life from the center is a life of unhurried peace and power. It is simple. It is serene. It is amazing. It is triumphant. It is radiant. It takes no time, but it occupies all our time. And when our little day is done, we lie down quietly in peace for all is well. May all be well with you today and every day. May you experience the resilience that the divine has for you and share that freely with others on the ramble of life.
Thank you so much to both of you for that gift. Now is the time when we collect our offering of financial resources for the good of this community. We know there are many ways to give back to this congregation, and we encourage you to find a way that works for you. For giving of financial support, your money or checks put in the plate for today will be used to fund everyday operation of this congregation. And I think they're probably looking for the offering plates. Last pew is where I put them. There we go. Any pocket change or other money that you designate for change online or by putting them in the white envelopes in the pews will be sent to this month's selected Change for Change organization, Man Up Philly. More info is on your screen about how to give online, and anyone can use the mobile app Vanco Mobile. Please know that if this is your first time with us, there's no expectation that you give anything other than a contact form or letting us know how you found us and how we can support you. The offering will now be gratefully accepted. And I'm going to invite Annie up to sing a beautiful song for us.
Feel like.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, there we go.
Is it on now?
Yeah, it's on. This song, May I Suggest, is a song I have wanted to sing here in this place for many years. It starts by saying, may I suggest this is the best part of your life. I may be feeling that way, but would someone who is having a particularly hard time also feel this way? I think we all struggle at times more deeply than others. I invite you to imagine those times in your life when you felt as if your life was shining bright and it was bringing you strength. You feel to the present as you listen to this song. Yeah. May I suggest to you, may I suggest this is the best part of your life. May I suggest this time is blessed for you. This time is blessed and shining almost blinding bright. Just turn your head and you'll begin to see the 1,000 reasons that were just beyond your sight. The reasons why I suggest to you, why I suggest this is the best part of your life. There is a world that's been addressed to you intended only for your eyes. A secret world like a treasure chest to you, with brilliant schemes and silent dreams that mesmerize. A lover's trusting smile, a tiny baby's hand, the million stars that fill the turning sky at night. May I suggest to you, may I suggest this is the best part of your life. There is a hope that's been addressed to you, the hope of 7 generations, maybe more. This is the faith that they've expressed in you. It's that you'll do one better than was done before. Inside you know, inside you understand, inside you know what's yours to finally set right. And may I suggest to you, may I suggest this is the best part of your life. This is a song that comes from the west to you, comes from the west, comes from the slowly setting sun. With a request of you to see how very short the endless days will run. And when they're gone, and when the dark descends, oh, you'd give anything for one more hour of light. And I suggest to you, and I suggest this is the best part of your life.
Thank you, Annie, for that beautiful song. Steve, will you come up so we can extinguish the chalice? As we get ready to extinguish our chalice and end our time together this morning, please remember to stick around for announcements in the slides and downstairs during coffee hour or lemonade lull. Folks on Zoom are invited to check in with each other. For more information on what's going on in the life of this congregation, you can check out the weekly newsletter that comes out on Thursdays, and check out our website and social media pages for more important updates. The words to extinguish our chalice are from Sarah Moores Campbell, and they appear in our gray hymnal, number 701. We receive fragments of holiness, glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up for the precious gifts they are, and renewed by their grace, move boldly into the unknown. Our closing hymn is 303, Oh, What a Piece of Work Are We. We invite you to stand in body or rise in spirit as we sing this hymn, which has the best title ever together.
Oh, what a piece of work are we, the Lord,
Thank you all for being with us today, especially our guest speaker, John Olson. I want to, yes, thank you so much. And a big thank you to Steve and all of what he gifted as well, to Annie and to Holly and to Mike. It's so nice to have him back this week. Thank you. And thank you for making us who we are. And I want to invite everyone to conversation and fellowship after the service in our basement social hour, where we'll be serving lemonade, water, and cookies. And I also, in the spirit of blessing, would like to invite each of you, if you'd like, to take a flower. There's more that are outside, or if you would like to pick up one of the flowers that's been laid on the table. In the spirit of blessing, picking it up and knowing that you might be picking up someone's joy, or you might be picking up someone's sorrow, but that you today can hold that and can carry that for someone. I invite you to do that if you feel so moved. Thank you for being with us. Blessed be and amen.
Amen. Amen.